So I'm with Matt Tobin today. He's a land agent with High Point. And Matt, we're gonna hit a couple things today, I hope.
Yeah.
One of the things I really want to touch on is where you think the market's going, whether it's ag or recreational land. And then I want to talk, how do you get into the market? I mean, how do you chase these land prices? Do you wait? What's the strategy here? So let's start out by answering the bigger question, and I'm sure the harder one, and that is, let's start with recreational land. Where do you see this market going?
Yeah, I think agricultural land and recreational land are going to kind of follow the same line. I mean, we're looking into a crystal ball, so we'll see if I'm right.
Well, we're just using our opinions, right? We have no idea whether this is right or not.
It's
just
for sure.
Yeah.
So I think obviously we've had a strong uptick in land prices across all sides of it. But I think now at some point with rising interest rates and inflation, I think it's going to either plateau out or slightly decline just a little bit, maybe 10%, something like that.
Yeah. So, and I keep looking at it too, like, the stimulus from the COVID time threw a whole bunch of cash into the market. And that cash kind of filters around until it ends up in the hands of somebody who doesn't have to spend it.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, it's going to change hands and accelerate the economy, which it did, but then it pools up somewhere.
Yep.
So where does that pool up? I feel like it pools up in the hands of people who don't need to spend it for something.
Right.
So then what are they going to buy with it? They're either going to buy something, in the stock market, or they're going to buy land, or they're going to buy some kind of an asset.
Right.
I feel like a lot of that went into land.
Absolutely.
And I think when that pool starts to dry up, when that land all gets acquired.
That money's been burnt up. Yeah.
I just feel like that reserve of cash has got to be depleting little by little here. So pretty soon we're going to hit the end of that. And then, land prices have to go back to what I feel like is more like a long-term trend line.
Right.
Unless commodity prices on the ag side stay really high for a really long time, like corn is, at $7 for, a long time.
Right.
Then people can justify maybe that curve being a little higher.
Right.
But you think, well, long term, corn's not going to average 7. Well, who knows? Maybe it will, but you're kind of thinking it won't.
You stick with that long-term trend line.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if land jumps above that long-term trend line, at some point it kind of has to work its way back over.
Absolutely. Whether that's flat or drops back down.
That's right. And same with recreational land. I mean, I started paying attention to recreational land in '95, and back then there wasn't really a recreational land category. There was just land.
Right.
And land sold for a certain amount. This kind of land sold for this, and nobody broke out recreational land separate from tillable.
Right.
So, about 95 is maybe roughly when that started. Mm-hmm. Since then, that long-term line has been about 7 to 8%, roughly.
Right.
And it's like now we're shooting, 70% or something crazy.
Something wild.
Right. So, or even 30% is crazy.
Yeah.
Right. So how long? Or how do we get back to that long-term line?
Yeah, that 7% trend line.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, does it go up like this and then come back flat to that line? Does it come down to it, or does it just go up and then run parallel to it? I don't know. My guess is that it has to have some kind of a flattening. That's just my thought.
Absolutely, to get back to that long-term trend line.
Yeah,
Yep.
That's what I think. And I could be wrong. Maybe there's just so much cash, and the supply and demand is so different now because they're not making any more land.
Right.
Right.
Actually, I think recreational land's going away.
That's right. Because they're developing it.
Well, first off, you're losing farm ground because of development.
Yeah.
And then also recreational land, but then, people want to farm more ground. And if it's flat, they'll just tear out 20 acres of trees, which was rec land, and went to tillable ground.
And there's no underlying commodity that sets the price on rec land.
Right.
It's not like you say, well, corn's going for $7 a bushel, so rec land is worth this. Well,
absolutely.
It doesn't work. It does on tillable. So what is the underlying thing that determines the value of recreational land? It's whether or not somebody wants it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
like you and Jacob had talked, like you're selling the, getting away from life.
So it's a little bit harder to throw maybe a long-term estimate of what this is going to do, because there is that supply and demand factor that's kind of shaping it also.
Right.
So,
absolutely.
Anyway, we're just kind of throwing darts at the board and
seeing who's going to end up being right.
Yeah, but
all we can do is wait and see.
Yeah. So now let's assume that we've got some more left in this run. We're not going to sit back and wait to see what happens, because gosh, I really want to get into this game.
Right.
I mean, how do I get started, or how do I get into land without chasing it? I mean, it's like my income doesn't rise fast enough. I'm not making 30% more every year.
Right.
So how do I keep up with this land?
Yeah. I think it's best, even if you're in, both sides, again, recreational or tillable ground, farm ground, If there's a piece of ground that you want and you feel it's a good buy, jump at it. I'd say take it, and then as the markets or the prices keep climbing, if a more desirable piece, whether you're a farmer and it's the neighboring farm that comes available, well, then you can sell that other piece that you jumped at now because it appreciated similar to the farm that's right next door.
Yeah.
Same thing with recreational land.
So in order to lock the price, you got to buy something.
And get in the game,
Yeah,
just like
so-
Lucas and you had talked about.
Yeah. So let's say recreational land in the area where you're at is selling for $5,000 an acre, but it's going up, and it's like, gosh, dang it, I don't want it to be $7,000 by the time I can afford it.
Right.
So you should be able to find, ideally, something somewhere. Maybe it's not your dream property.
Right.
But get in the game. Then you've got something that, when it appreciates,
It's keeping up with everything else.
yeah. So you're
that you
selling
wanna
land
buy.
to buy land.
Yep.
So it could be $1 million an acre, and at that point you don't care.
Right.
I mean-
Yours went up as well.
Yeah. So you're here, then
Following,
you're going
keeping
across.
up at
Yeah.
that point.
So that's the trick. Is the only way to keep the price from getting ahead of you is to buy something.
Right.
And that's the tricky part too, of course, because you got to have the down payment and so forth. So maybe you can't start out with a lot of land, but you start somewhere.
Yeah. It's just like we were talking about last week or a couple weeks ago. It's like just no one ever says, man, I wish I didn't buy this farm.
Yeah.
It's, oh, I wish I would have got that farm bought, So it's best to just get in the game when the ability is there, get in the game and then ride it wherever it goes together.
I've had so many conversations like that where I'm moaning and complaining about the price of something I'm thinking about buying, and some old timer will come along and say, well, we've been saying that ever since I was 20 years old.
Absolutely. I hear that all the time.
Yeah. So
Twice
that's
a week,
interesting.
for sure.
No, that's good. So that pretty much wraps up, I think, all the stuff that we were going to touch on.
Yeah, I think we hit it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Matt. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you for your
Absolutely.
insight.
Thank you, Bill.
So keep checking back, and we'll keep bringing you more episodes here at the High Point Land Series.